This is Chris from Intermountain MLS. Just a reminder that there is no CE credit for recorded classes. To get the CE credit, you have to attend in person. Thanks, and enjoy the recording. All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. So this is the Mobile Tools class. My name is Chris Peterson. I work here at the MLS. We're going to talk about Paragon Connect on our phones this morning. The handout you've got kind of goes through Paragon Connect a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you, the handout is dated compared to Paragon Connect now. I mean, it's not out of date, but there are newer things that aren't in there just because we haven't updated it yet. And then, of course, you've got the evaluation for the Real Estate Commission because there's 2 CE credits for this morning, and then later this afternoon, after the second class is done, we'll send that information to the Real Estate Commission, and we'll send an email out with your certificate, so it'll get reported to them. So a couple of things really quick here with Paragon Connect. I mentioned this earlier, but I'll mention it again. The passwords don't synchronize between the gateway and Paragon Connect. So if you're able to log into your gateway and everything works well, but then you go to log on your phone and it tells you the password's wrong, you just have to create a new one. There isn't a way to make them synchronize. The new password you create is only for Paragon Connect, which means if you were to go directly into Paragon Connect on your computer, like not go through the gateway, you'd be using the password that you use on your phone. And so it's just the way that it is. They're trying to figure ways around it that will be the least intrusive. The thing with Paragon Connect, the app on your phone, is that it can use biometrics, so Face ID or fingerprint scan to log you in. And so if you create that new password, instead of having to remember it every time, if you have that set up on your phone, it can just log you right in to make it a lot faster. In fact, if you look at any of the help information, they have a lot of videos for Paragon Connect. One of the things they talk about is how easy it is to get into Paragon Connect. Well, that's because your phone lets you use fingerprint or Face ID to get in there really quick. So before we jump in and I get my phone out up here, do you guys have any questions about Paragon Connect we need to make sure we talk about today?
What's the main purpose of Paragon?
Well, so Paragon Connect is the way to access the MLS data on your phone. And Paragon Connect is where Paragon is going, which is the other thing, is that this Paragon Classic that we've had for a long time is going to eventually go away. Now, it's not going away tomorrow, it's not going away in a year, but it will go away.
So you'll only be using mobile devices?
Well, no, because Paragon Connect works on your computer.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's not only mobile devices. That's the whole thing, is that Paragon Connect is a dynamic site. You could use the site on your phone, or you can use the app on your phone. There are a few things that are app specific that we'll talk about this morning. But when Paragon Connect was first created, the idea was it was a mobile tool. And then what they realized is because Paragon Connect was basically created from the ground up as a new system, I mean, the back-end database with the listing data and contacts and searches is the same, but the front end is totally new. It's not like it's taking the old clunky Paragon and making it mobile. They created a whole new system. And so they realized that that's really the next generation of Paragon. And so the other benefit of Paragon Connect on your phone as a mobile tool is that you're using the same tool you use on your computer. And that's the other benefit, is that if your phone is not your favorite toy to play on, some people, their phone isn't their toy. They use it to call people, to text, to communicate, and that's it. If you're familiar with how Paragon Connect works on your computer, it's going to work works the same on your phone. Obviously, it's laid out differently because, for example, when you're searching in Paragon Connect, if I go here to a residential search, you'll notice that there are 2 columns here for the criteria, and when we pull it up on my phone, it will be 1 column, but it's the same thing, same information. And so when you're using it on your phone or your computer, it's the same thing. Whereas Paragon Classic does not look like it Connect at all. And so Paragon Connect on your phone, on your computer, it's the same thing.
So should a person start using Paragon Connect on their computer?
It wouldn't hurt. I mean, again, the other one's not going away tomorrow, but with newer agents, I always tell them I would spend 80% of your time in Paragon Connect, because why learn something that's eventually going to go away? I mean, I don't say 100% because there's still lots of agents in your brokerage that are using the old Paragon. But the more that are using Paragon Connect on their mobile device, even though they may still be using this on their computer, they're going to be familiar with Connect because they're using it on their phones. And the transition to Paragon Connect on your computer is not going to be as a difficult transition if you're familiar with it. So, but all right, so let me bring my phone up here. and I'll bring up Paragon Connect. So here's my phone, here comes Paragon Connect. Now, we're going to talk about the dashboard here, the menus that are here, the settings, and then we'll go in and look at searching here in a little bit. The thing to remember is, with a few exceptions that we'll bring up here in a few minutes, everything is the same on your phone or your computer. So like any settings you change, any widgets you add or remove, you're removing them from here too. So as you're customizing and setting things up, for example, on my Paragon Connect on my computer, I have 2 different rows of widgets, which means on my phone I've got one long scroll of all those widgets. And so if you wanted to make your phone not have a long scroll, that's totally fine, but that means you would have less widgets on your dashboard. And so it depends on what kind of information you want the dashboard to show you. I mean, that's just one example of how customizing can be different, because there's not a way to make the phone do one thing and your computer do another. That's the flip side of having the same tool on both devices. I mean, and an example of why that can be really useful, I mean, if you're a social media user and you use Facebook on your computer is not the same as Facebook on your phone. If it was, that'd be great. Then you wouldn't have to look 2 different places to do the same thing. And so Paragon Connect is the same. So the first thing we're going to look at is just right here on the home page on the dashboard. Up on the top right, we have 2 icons here. The messages icon, which looks like a megaphone, and the customized dashboard icon. The messages icon, I don't think I have any messages here. Yeah, I don't have any messages. But those messages are going to be from Paragon. So like if you have a listing that's going to expire, or you have a search that's going to stop sending out notifications because it's been a year, that's the kind of message you would see there. That's what that is. Just like on Paragon Classic, you have the message center, gives you those same things. The other one, the customized dashboard, is where you can customize the various widgets that you have here on the dashboard. And so I'll bring up my customized dashboard. It will probably look different than yours because I already have some widgets on here. And then we'll talk about the widgets as well. But if you go there to customize dashboard, the first one that comes up is the primary widget section, and currently there's only one primary widget. It's the buyer activity. So if you have contacts set up with searches for the Collab Center, you would see their activity here, which we'll talk about that more in a minute. And if you don't want to see that, you can hide it. All right, so the secondary widgets, I'm going to talk about the ones I have, and then we'll go to the add widget and talk about how you can add widgets. So on the secondary widgets here, the first one I have is the hot sheet alerts. We'll talk more about that later on. The resource links are just links to tools from the resources menu. You have the quick action links that are here. I have my inventory. If I was an agent, it would have my inventory. Unread comments are the ones from the Collab Center. Then the last 5 searches, my saved searches, and then I have unpublished purge alert, which is unpublished listings are your partial listings. And so this is just telling me how many unpublished listings how many of those are going to be deleted soon. They last for a year, and then they're automatically deleted. If you want to remove a widget, you just click on the X. If you want to change the order, you can just tap and drag them and put them where you want. If I go down here to add widget, so some widgets I don't have on here, the first one is property watches. Property watches isn't something that a lot of people in our MLS use, that at least I hear, and that's because what it looks for is public records changes. We're a non-disclosure state. We're one of 13 non-disclosure states in Idaho, and so there aren't any public record data out there about properties. In a disclosure state, property watches would show you anytime there's a refinance or it changes hands, private party, all that's public record data. In Idaho, it's not. Listing carts would show you the listing carts you've created, which, different than a search, listing carts lets you keep track of individual listings. Paragon's had that forever, but this would let you see your listing carts. Latest listing edits, if you enter and maintain your own listings, this would show the listings you've most recently changed. So if you're a listing agent and you want to easily go into your current listings you've been working on, you could do that. Expiring tracker shows you listings that are going to expire. And on any of these, if you tap on the little eye, it'll pop up and show you an example of the widget and tell you what it's about. Pending tracker will tell you about your pending listings. Days on market has to do with listings from your brokerage or your own listings and their days on market. And then the sell side tracker has to do, if you're a listing agent, you can get information on that listing, like how many times it's been viewed, how many times it's been emailed, favorites possible, rejected from the Collab Center. and it also links you to the insight information on that listing as well. And so that if you're a listing agent, the sell side tracker can be really useful. And then if I wanted to add a widget, I would just select it, click add widget, and that would let me add it to my dashboard. So I'm going back here to the dashboard. I didn't add any widgets, and so we're going to talk about the widgets that are here now. Again, you may have different ones than I have, and that's totally fine. So the first one here is that buyer activity. So it's the activity from the Collab Center. If I tap here on the legend, I can see that green is favorite, blue is possible, red's rejected, purple is new comment, lavender is a new saved search. So I can see with Ken Adams, he marked 3 favorite, 5 possible, 1 rejected, 6 comments, and 2 new saved searches. And that's in the last 7 days. And then visits to the Collab Center in the last 30 days, it tells me right there. So my fake person, Ken Adams, has visited the Collab Center 6 times in the last 30 days. And let's say I tap on the number 6 to view the comments. Any unread comment is in bold. So I could come here and I could respond, when do you want to go? And then on the Collab Center, they would see that I had left a response to their comment. And the Collab Center also has an app that consumers can use. When you send them the initial email for the Collab Center, it gives them a link to download the Collab Center app and the code they need to connect to you. And so if they have the app installed and they left all the settings as default, they would get a push notification that I responded, just like you would get a push notification telling you that your client had left a comment. So you can do that. Now, the push notifications can't be set for certain clients. Like I can't get only a push notification for Ken Adams and not for John Sanderson, but I can get push notifications if my clients are leaving comments. And I mean, the reason for that is so I'd be, number one, be able to see those comments without having to jump into Paragon Connect, and number two, easily respond to them. So if that's not something that you need to do or want to do, then you can turn off those notifications, but it's either or. It's either on to receive them for everyone or it's off to receive them for no one. So just like texting. I don't know any phone that you can go in and say, I only want notifications when my wife texts me, not my kids. Don't think you can do that. I think you can say, I want notifications for texting, or I don't want notifications for texting. So that's what you want to remember. But anyway, that's the buyer activity. Then I've got the hot sheet alerts. We'll talk more about hot sheet alerts later on. But what hot sheet alerts can really be like, they're like the Market Monitor in Paragon Classic, except it's more customizable and more unified. For example, the Market Monitor in Paragon Classic, you only have a section for new or back on market or sold. In the hot sheet alerts, you can go in and put all those together in one location. Like if I want to see all the new back on market and price change that are happening in Meridian, I can see those all together. And so we'll talk about the hot sheet alerts later on. And again, creating them on your phone for Paragon Connect is also creating them on your computer. All right, the next one I have here is resource links, and these are just links to tools. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. There we go. Let's go to expand. Just links that are on the dashboard, that are on the resources menu in Paragon Classic, like the Realtor Pro Search, Instanet, the Base Contra Costa Data Share with that MLS, Broker Base, CRS Data, Homes.com, RPR, Form Simplicity, List Track, Cloud CMA, Community Reports. It's just a way to get to those. And some of them, because you're in Paragon, especially if you're in the app, if, like for example, the Realtor Pro Search, it has to verify you're a member of Intermountain MLS and a realtor. And so when you click on the Realtor Pro Search, it's going to take you to the gateway to log in. But for example, if I click on Instanet, it will take me right into Instanet because it's able to verify who I am. I mean, here it's loading Instanet on my phone. I don't think it would be fun to fill out a form on your phone, but if you need to get into Instanet, you could do that. So here I am in Transaction Desk, and I've got all that stuff there. And then to go back to Paragon Connect, however you go back to apps on your phone is what you do. That's the other thing to remember with Paragon Connect. It's an app on your phone like anything else. So there's things the app does, but it doesn't control how your phone works. So however your phone does things, you want to keep that in mind. The quick actions, they're just, like it sounds, quick actions. Listings near me, that's the near me search, which we'll talk about another near me search at the top of the page before we go to the menu here. Residential search, of course, would take you right into that. Your saved searches, your listing carts, edit and creating listings, creating a CMA, and easy CMA are all right there. Then we have the My Inventory. So if you're a listing agent, this is where you'd see your inventory. All right, so back here on my phone, we're talking about the My Inventory widget. Then we've got the unread comments. So again, if I wanted to see comments that my clients have left on the Collab Center, I would see that here. And even if I wasn't getting a push notification, I could still come here and see it. And I could tap on a comment, respond, and then again they would see that information.
Where are those unread comments?
It's one of the widgets that can be added.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, so it's just a widget that I have on there.
Okay.
Last 5 searches shows the last 5 searches that I've ran. And again, you might be looking at this thinking, Chris, I only see 2, but if I hit expand, there's all 5 of them. And it's searches that I've ran in Paragon Connect or Paragon Classic. It's the same database. And if you click on the criteria, that loads the criteria. If you click on the person, that will run the search. So if I want to run a search that I ran before, I could do that. And then we've got the next widget I have is My Saved Searches. Again, if I click on the name of the search, it loads the criteria. If I click on the person, it runs the search. And then my last widget, because I don't have any listings or anything, is the Unpublished Purge Alert. So in Paragon Connect and Paragon Classic, when you create an unpublished or a partial listing, it stays there for a year and then it's automatically deleted. So if you make it live, of course, it's not unpublished or partial anymore. It's a live listing. But these are listings that were created previously, and this is how many days I have until they're deleted. And you can delete your own partial and unpublished listings, but they're deleted automatically. And no one else can see them other than you. So those are the widgets there on the dashboard. Another thing to talk about up here on the top of the dashboard is we've got the Power Search and we've got the Near Me Search. So the Near Me Search, we already saw that once on the Quick Actions. It's also here. We'll talk about the Near Me Search a little bit later as well. There's a third place we'll see it. But what
Listings near me?
that's going to find, listings near you, and it's going to use the location of your device. So a couple things to remember. If you are a person that's super security conscious, and I'm not saying that's bad, you just need to know that if Paragon doesn't know your location, it clearly can't find listings near you. I mean, if your eyes aren't open, you can't see. So if your phone doesn't know where you are, it can't find listings near you. Your default settings on your device, when you install the app, allows you to share your location. The thing I would say about security things on your phone is if you trust the app, like, why would you not trust Paragon? You're giving the MLS thousands of dollars in your time as a realtor to share your information with the MLS. It's not any different in Paragon Connect. So if you turn that sharing off, just make sure you allow that or the Near Me Search isn't going to work. The other thing here is the Power Search. Now in Paragon Classic, I'm going to try not to switch back and forth a ton, but just to show you, in Paragon Classic, the Power Search is right here. In Paragon Connect, it's right here at the top. So on your phone, it's right here at the top. And it lets you search for listings, contacts, agents, properties, offices. And so let's say I come here and I type in Adams, if I could spell it right. So the first thing it's showing me are listings that have Adams in their name. The most of something it can show you is 10. There are obviously more than 10 listings in the MLS that have Adams in their name. And then there's some addresses that it brought up from Google Maps. I have 2 contacts that have Adams in their name. And then, of course, it's showing me 10 agents that have Adams in their name. There are clearly more than 10 agents that have Adams in their name. We only have 3 Adamsons on this list. I'm pretty sure there are more than 3 Adamsons that are realtors. And so if you know what you're looking for, the Power Search is great. If you're trying to search for everything, it's not going to be very useful. But let's say, for example, I wanted to go to Ken Adams' contact record, and I had someone ask, how do I know it's a contact? Well, right there is a little contact card. That's telling me it's a contact record. So, and plus it says contacts right above that. When I tap on it, that brings up Ken Adams' contact record, which we'll talk more about contacts in a minute, but now I'm on his contact record. And then to go back, however you go back on your phone, you can swipe back, or there might be a back button. I can also go to the menu and tap on Dashboard, and I'm back on the dashboard. And then I'm going to close the Power Search. So that's the dashboard here with the Power Search and the Near Me Search. Any questions or comments about that? Okay. And before we go on, and I'll probably say it a few times today, You have to think about how you are on your mobile device. How did you learn to use the apps that you use? You did it. You used them. That's the whole thing. I mean, I don't know anybody who sat down next to Mark Zuckerberg and he walked you through how to use Facebook on your phone. Or whoever made Twitter before Elon Musk bought them, how to use Twitter. And so, I mean, obviously we're having a mobile tools class, but this is going to teach you how to use it. This is going to show you what it can do. Just like when you go drive a car at a new car dealership, you take a test drive, not to learn everything about the car, but to see what it can do. And then you buy it, and then you learn how to use it. Paragon Connect's the same way, like any other app. The more you use it, the easier it gets. So I'm going to go to the menu up here on the top left, and we'll kind of go through the menu that's here. So over the very top, you've got your login information. There's a little triangle to the right there. When you tap on that, if you assume people's identity, like maybe you're an assistant or a TC, you could assume their identity here, because you can assume identity in Paragon Connect. About gives you the version. Help takes you to their help. Help has a lot of videos about Paragon Connect. The thing to remember with the support for Paragon Connect is phone support is done by us at Intermountain MLS. If you go to their help, there is a help number on there. That is not our number, so when you call it, they'll tell you, we can't help you because your MLS does your own tech support. And that's true. We've always done that. So phone support for Paragon Connect, like Paragon Classic, is when we're open 8:30 to 5 Monday through Friday. And so if you have a question on the weekends, there's probably no one who's going to get to it till Monday. That's just how it works. You can provide feedback. Their privacy policy log out is there. Now, people ask all the time, does Paragon Connect automatically time out? Yes and no. Yes, it does, if you're not using it. But the thing to remember on your phone is when you're not using an app, most phones kind of pause or make the app sleep. So if an app is sleeping, it can't count down a timer because it's sleeping and not doing anything. So what that means is if you have Paragon open at 10:30 in the morning, Paragon Connect, and then you go do other things on your phone and you open up Paragon Connect again the next time at 4 in the afternoon, it will probably come up for you. But if you don't do anything, it may log you out. Just know that it does have a timeout feature. So if you're using it, it's not going to time out on you. All right, so back to the rest of the items here on the menu. Dashboard, of course, takes us to the dashboard. Properties takes us to search for properties. And this is the same, like I said, on your phone or your computer. Up at the top, we've got the Near Me search. So if you're keeping track, that's the third time we've seen the Near Me search. We've got the Hot Sheet search, and we've got Tour and Open House. So let's search for tours and open houses. And in Paragon Classic, under the search menu, here's the Hot Sheet search. Here is the Tour and Open House search. If you didn't use them before, you may not use them a lot now. We will talk about the Hot Sheet alerts with the Hot Sheet search here in a little bit as well. Then we have the property classes, residential land, residential income.
Now, how did you get to the screen you're on right
So you go to the menu up on the top left, and if you go to properties, that's what comes up. So that's where all the tools are in Paragon Connect. Yep. So the property classes are all there. Below the property classes, we've got photo match, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We've got my saved searches and the last 5 searches. If I go to my saved searches, which we could have also gotten to from the dashboard, that brings up all my saved searches in Paragon Connect and Classic. If it's a search that's assigned to a contact, it's going to have their initials or their image there, and it will have their name above the search. If it's a search that's only assigned to me, it's going to say your search and have your initials or your agent image there. And when you're looking at a search, if it's only assigned to you, when you click on the menu over on the right, you can delete it or assign it to someone. If it's already assigned to someone, you can unassign it or delete it. And then, of course, run the search, runs it. Edit the search, lets you edit it. And then to go back to the properties section, I'm just going to go back, however you go back on your phone, and now I'm back here on properties. And then the last 5 searches, like we saw before, shows me the last 5 searches that I ran. So that's the properties section. And again, we'll come back and look at searching residential here in a few minutes. So I'm going back to the menu at the top. The next one here is tax. And that lets you go in and search the Paragon tax information, which isn't as reliable as the CRS data tax information. CRS data is also on the dashboard. We saw that. But you can also go here to the menu up on the right, and CRS data tax search is right there. So I open that up. I could come here, like put in an address, finds the address I'm looking for, and here is the property information for 2872 Pine Flats. And then I'm in a browser tab on my phone. So then I just go back, and now I'm back in Paragon Connect. And when you're looking at a listing, just like we've had in Paragon Classic and Connect, you've got information there to let you go back to the tax record or anything else when you're viewing that listing. And so that's the tax section. Going back to the menu here, the next one after tax is contacts, and that shows you the contacts that you have in Paragon Connect and Classic. When you're viewing a contact, if the phone icon is not grayed out, then that means there's a phone number there. If you tap on it, that will let you call or text that person from your phone. It is not doing it from Paragon Connect. If the phone number is grayed out, they don't have a phone number. If the envelope is not grayed out and not highlighted, that means they have an email address that has not been opted out. If it's grayed out, they don't have an email address. If it's highlighted, it means they've opted out. If they've opted out, when you tap on that highlighted email icon, it shows you the email address that's been opted out, and there's a link there to go to the opt-in page and opt them back in. And then it starts sending them emails again. Opt-outs happen one of two ways. Either they did click on opt-out to opt out, maybe they got tired of looking at houses and they're done and they never told you. Or if Paragon got a bounce back for whatever reason, like their inbox was full or something, then Paragon opts them out. Paragon's not going to bang its head against a wall sending emails if they're not being received. And so that's what that would be. And then the little globe icon here would take you to the Collab Center for that person. And if it's grayed out, then they're not set up for the Collab Center. When you're viewing your contacts, up at the top, you've got a search option here to search through your contacts. You've got the filter to let you choose how they're being displayed, active, inactive, ascending, descending, however you want. And then to add contacts, you tap on the plus here at the bottom. When you're in the Paragon Connect app, we have two choices here. We have manual and import. When you're just on the Paragon Connect site, manual is all you have. So we'll talk about that first. Manual, of course, will just let you type in their information. To add a contact, first, last name, and email address are required. So you have to have that in there if you're adding a contact. And if you want to add their picture, you can do that right there. I had someone say, who does that? Everyone does that. I mean, if you want to see their face when they call you on your phone, you took a picture of them. Whether they knew it or not, you got a picture of them in there. So this lets you add a picture to your contacts. The other option when you tap on the plus is import. And this is what you can do only from the app on your phone. You can import contacts from your phone address book. So let's say, for example, you're an agent and you're manning an open house. You meet a buyer who wants to work with you, and they want you to send him some listings. So I'm not an agent. I've never been an agent. But my guess would be you would put him in your phone as a contact. So you've got him in your phone as a contact. You tap on import and then select that contact. And now they're in Paragon Connect as a contact, which means you only had to enter their name and their email address and their phone number correct one time into your phone. And then they're correct in Paragon. And on a side note, if you're a person that synchronizes with Gmail, I highly recommend that, because then if you ever get a new phone, you just synchronize again and all your contacts are back. But if you synchronize with your contacts with Gmail, with your Google account, you can also import your Google contacts into Instant and Transaction Desk, which means that buyer you put in your phone one time, you can import them into Paragon Connect to send them listings. And then later on, if you've synchronized with Google, you can import them into Transaction Desk to set up as a contact, as a buyer in your transaction, which again means you only had to enter their information correct one time. You don't have to keep asking them, is this correct? Is this correct? I can't think of a less professional thing than having to have someone sign an addendum because you spelled their name or their email address wrong. And so having them entered correctly as a contact on your phone can save you a lot of heartache later on. And then if I tap on a contact, so I'm tapping on my fake person, Ken Adams, comes up here. Now, this active, you're the one that chooses if they're active or inactive. I'm not going to say don't use inactive, but the biggest headache people run into with contacts that are inactive is that they forget they've turned them inactive. So if you're going to do that, remember you've done that. So for example, if I go up here to the menu and I tap on edit, there's the little checkbox to make them not active. The reason I bring that up is something that you may not want to do is, let's say you're working with someone today and they're like, yeah, we're not going to be ready for maybe another 6 months, 7 months. We don't really want anything else sent to us. So if you turn them as inactive, totally fine. It makes sense. But 6 months from now, when they're ready to start getting notifications from you again, in Paragon Connect and Paragon Classic, when you're looking at contacts, the default list is the actives. So you would come here to your active list and they wouldn't be on it. So you're like, oh, I need to add them again. And then you go to add them again and it won't let you because they're already a contact, but they're inactive. So I would just turn off the notifications, but leave them active. Because then when later on, when they're ready to be notified, they're still on your list and you turn on the notifications. Instead of trying to add them 10 times and then getting frustrated and calling the MLS when you're upset, when it's an issue that has nothing to do with the MLS, it has everything to do with you turning them as inactive. And in Paragon Classic, just
back on, Chris?
Oh, you can, but that's the thing is you have to remember you turned them off. The person that calls us frustrated doesn't remember they did that. They're like, I know this is the right email. I've entered it 5 times. It's telling me it's wrong.
So right now I have one that's active.
Yeah.
So how do I turn him?
So if you want to make it inactive, if you go to the menu up on the top right, the little 3 dots, and go to edit, there's a checkbox for active. And if you uncheck that, then they'll be inactive.
So you just go back into the same place.
And then check that again.
Okay.
Yep. But again, like I said, people forget they've done that. They try to re-enter the person and it won't let them because the person is already in here. And so however you want to do it is fine. I would just say remember what you've done. Yeah.
So you're suggesting, though, to just take off the auto notification?
Yeah, you can turn off the notification.
And so that the choice is agent preview?
Well, no. So what you would do is you would go, so if I came here and I go to buyer activity, here's all his searches. And I would just go here. I go to a search that I created, and I can just go to disable notifications.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't even remove the search, just turns off the notifications. Because in 6 months, they may be looking for the same thing. I mean, if they're not, I could create a new search for them too. But yeah, you just go to the buyer activity where the searches are, and then you can just come here and disable the notifications. So, all right, back here to the contact record. Up at the top, it's got the envelope to email them, the phone to call or text them, and we've tapped on it a couple times, the menu on the right, the collaboration center. Invite consumer app lets you send them a email invitation to the consumer app, which they would have gotten when they initially were set up for the collab center, but maybe they didn't do it at that time. And they're like, well, what's this app it's talking about? And you could send them the link again. You can delete them. You can edit their information. So then if it's a buyer, which is this fake person's a buyer, right below their image or their initials, it's going to show listing match status. And that shows the total number of listings that currently match their search, how many are new, price change, status change, and other. If I hit results, I would see all those. And then below, under total interest level, it's got the undecided, favorite, possible, and rejected of what they've done on the Collab Center. And again, I could tap on any of those. Like say, for example, I tap on favorites. Now I see the 38 favorites that this person has marked. And it shows when they were notified about those properties. And so I can see what they're doing. Under buyer activity or seller activity, this is where you can see some of that as well. Under buyer activity, this is where it shows all their searches. And so here's the searches that are assigned to them. If it's got their initials or their image, it's a search that they created on the Collab Center. Each contact can have up to 10 searches. Whether you create 10 or you create 1 and they create 9, they can have 10. If it's got your image or your initials, then it's your search. And here individually on each search, you can see the undecided favorites, possible, rejected. The thing to remember about the favorites, possible, and rejected is that when we get down here to the bottom of this list, you'll see one that says preserved listings. If they mark a listing as a favorite or a possible, but it no longer matches their search, that's what preserved listings are. So let's say I'm working with a buyer that's going to buy a house a year from now. They're probably going to mark active listings as favorites, but a year from now, they're not going to be active anymore. They're going to be pending, sold, canceled, expired, but they're still favorites on the Collab Center. That's what preserved listings are. So if you're looking at the Collab Center for the client or they're looking at it, the number of favorites they're going to see is going to be different than what you see on each of these searches because you're seeing the listings that currently match the search as well. So for example, this one that says Southeast Boise up to 750K has 2 favorites. It might have other favorites that were from this search that no longer match it because they're sold or expired or something. Those would be preserved listings. And when they look at those listings, they'll see the status. We'll say sold or expired. It won't say active anymore. But buyer activity lets you see the searches they have. If you want to add a search, you just tap on the plus, choose your property class and create the search. Because you're already in their contact record, it's already going to be connected to them. You don't have to save it or assign it. It's already going to be there. So you can create a new search for them if you want. So that's the buyer activity. Questions about buyer activity? Now, if you're thinking buyer activity, I've never seen that before. In Paragon Classic, if I go here to View Manage Contacts, here's my fake person, Ken Adams. Here's buyer activity on the left, and that's where all the searches are. So here's that Southeast Boise up to 750K. And so there's the undecided favorite, possible rejected. So same thing I'm seeing here, I'm seeing here. And if I go back to their contact record, below buyer activity is the seller activity. This is where I would assign a listing if I was an agent. Like if this was my seller, I could assign it to them. So just like a buyer can have the Collab Center, sellers can have the Collab Center to see what's going on with their listing. They can see how many times it's been emailed, how many agents have a search that match it, how many times people on the Collab Center have marked it as favorite, possible, rejected. They also can see competitive listings by their property. And they can see that on the Collab Center app. They also can see it via email on the Collab Center site, just like buyers can. And in the Paragon Advanced class, we talk about setting up the Collab Center both for buyers and for sellers. Comments are comments that have been left. Any unread comment is in bold. So I can come here. When do you want to see it? And then again, they're getting that response to my comment that I left. So that's comments. Requested showings are going to be showings from the Collab Center that they've requested of you. When a client's on the Collab Center, they can request a showing. It's going to their agent. It's not going to the listing agent. It's not going through Broker Bay. It's just going to send you a notice that they have requested showings. And you're only going to see showings that are upcoming. And so that's the requested showings. Message history are the emails that have been sent. And if it's an auto email, it's going to have this little stopwatch icon. If it's a manual email, it's going to have a person icon that you'll have there. And if it was a text sent from Paragon Connect or Classic on your computer, it would say SMS. If you're texting from the app on your phone or the site on your phone, it's coming from your texting app, not Paragon. And we'll look at texting later on. Easy CMA would only be there if the contact has an Easy CMA assigned to them, but if they do, you could come here and see the easy CMAs that are assigned to that person. And Easy CMA is also something that we look at in the advanced class. Then it shows you the last time they were notified, the last time they accessed the Collab Center, and then it has their reverse prospecting ID number. Every contact is assigned a reverse prospecting ID number, and the reason for that is when a listing agent does a reverse prospecting search, they're not going to know who your contact is. They'll know who you are, that you're the agent that has the buyer, and they'll reach out to you, and they might say, hey, Chris, your contact 55121 matches my property. We just had a price reduction and are having an open house this weekend. You should come. And so if listing agents are using the reverse prospecting tool to reach out to agents with buyers that match their listing, they don't know who the buyers are. They just have this code that they can give to you. And if you have that code, if I go here to my contacts and I don't know who 55121 is, I can come here, 55121, and there's Ken Adams. So I can just type in that reverse prospecting ID number and it tells me who they are. And so that's reverse prospecting. And if you're a listing agent and you're not using reverse prospecting, you should. It is a great way to be able to reach out to agents that have contacts that match your listing. Instead of trying to email everyone in the MLS, which that never works. I mean, if I'm an agent in Boise, emailing agents in Moscow about my listing isn't going to get me any buyers. But if I use reverse prospecting, I'm only notifying agents who already have a contact whose search matches my property. And so that's reverse prospecting. And then at the very bottom, you've got the invitation code for the Collab Center app where you can copy it or send it. I would always recommend sending it via email to them because it is case sensitive. If you hit copy, that's going to let you copy that code and text it to them. But you'll notice because it's case sensitive, if they enter the code incorrectly, it's not going to work. Whereas if you send it to them, it'll send it as an email. And I know some people are like, I email, who uses that? I just text. The thing with texting is you can have issues with the way that data is transmitted. Again, have you ever gotten a note from someone and everything was in all caps and they may not have typed it that way initially? That doesn't happen all the time, but because this is case sensitive, you want to make sure that it's delivered the correct way, and sending it as an email will do that. So that's, even though copy's there, the email is easier, because when they get that email, they just double tap on that code and then they've copied it and they can put it in their Collab Center app. So that is contacts. Questions or comments about contacts in Paragon Connect. All right, back here to the menu. The next one is Easy CMA. In the advanced class, like I said, we talk about Easy CMA, but you could come here and create an Easy CMA on your phone. Easy CMA has always been in Paragon Connect. In fact, in Paragon Classic, if you go here to CMA and go to create an Easy CMA, you'll notice it's opening Paragon Connect to do that. So you can do it on your phone. Listings is where you could go in and edit or maintain listings. I don't think it'd be fun to do on your phone, at least entering a listing, but working with active or partial listings, you could come here and easily select those listings and work with them. And so that's the listing section. And you might notice up here on the top right, we've got this customized dashboard. Now again, in the input maintenance class, we go through all this, but just like the dashboard on the front page of Paragon Connect, you've got widgets here you can add to the listing section of Paragon Connect. So if you want to easily see things about your listings, you can do that. The next one after listings is roster. Lets you look up agents or offices in Paragon Connect. There is no way to export a list of all those agents. I don't know why you would want to do that, but you can do that. Resources, these are also, most of these are on the resources widget on the home page. First one is system documents. And in Paragon Classic, up on the top right, we've got MLS documents. That's what that is. So if I go here to system documents, there's folders here for appraisers. The old area maps are there. Form Simplicity, Instanet information, stuff from the Paragon classes are there. And so that's just the system documents. Website links are links that can be added by you, your office, or the MLS. So like if you wanted to easily add a link that you might go to when you're on the MLS, you can come here to click on the plus and add your link. Your brokerage can add their own links in there. The designated broker can do that. And then the other links are links that the MLS has put in there. And so like here we have like the Idaho Realtors, the Real Estate Commission, that kind of stuff is all there. And then we have links to the Realtor Pro Search, Instanet, all those ones we talked about earlier. And like I mentioned, like for example, the Realtor Pro Search, that's going to have you log into the dashboard to verify who you are.
Chris, can I ask
Yeah.
a question? On the website links, those links are just specific. You're the only one seeing them?
On the My Links you are.
Okay.
On the office ones, your broker could create that and everyone in the office would see that. The system links are the MLS creates those and everyone in the MLS can see those.
Okay, that's like who I send these to.
Oh, these aren't for your clients at all.
Okay,
Yep.
got it. Thank you.
Yeah, if you want your clients to see links, we'll see a place in the preferences where you can add that in there, then they would see that on the Collab Center.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so that's resources. Now, there's a couple of things Paragon Connect doesn't do yet. One of them is the statistics. So if I tap on statistics, you'll notice it takes me into Paragon Classic into the statistics. I can turn my phone sideways. Here's all the statistic reports I could run, and I could do that there. That's the same thing like in Paragon Classic, going to resources and going to statistical reporting. And then, of course, to get back to Paragon Connect, however you go back on your phone, that's what you would do. My content, the next one, this shows your listing cards, property watches, message history, and requested showings for their whole system. So before we saw like the requested showings and message history on that individual contact, this shows them all. So if I go to listing cards, here's all my listing cards when they were last updated. If I tap view, then I'm viewing the listings that are in that listing card. If I tap on the menu, I can add a listing by MLS number, rename it, add them to a CMA, delete them. And again, listing cards we've had for a long time. We're just a way to group listings together. And especially if you've got contacts that are looking for different kinds of properties, it's hard to run one search to have all those in there. I mean, if they want to buy a residential property for $500,000, but they'll also build on vacant land, $500,000 is not their price point for the vacant land as it is for the residential listing. So you could run 2 searches, add results from both those searches into one listing cart, and send all those things together. Now, there is not a way to automate that. So if it's the Collab Center, they're going to have to get 2 searches set up for them. But you can put them together in a listing cart and you manually send those to them. Property watches, we talked about that. Message history, again, shows the messages, this time for everybody. And so let me see if I can find a text that I sent from my computer. There we go, right there, SMS to Chris Peterson. I shared listings on July 8th. And if I tap on that, I can see the listings that were sent. Now, those were listings that were texted from Paragon Connect or Classic on my computer, not my phone. When you're texting from your phone, it's going to use your texting app, not Paragon Connect. But like in Paragon Connect, if you are looking at listings, like let me just bring up some listings here. If I'm looking at listings in Paragon Connect, I could come here on my computer, select these, go here to share, and there's text. So I could text it from my computer. It isn't going to come from my phone number. It's going to come from a generic Paragon phone number. Just like when you get text messages from other businesses you work with, you get a text message from Papa Murphy's. It's not from the manager's phone. It's from Constant Contact or whatever tool they're using. Same thing. They're going to get it from a generic Paragon number. It will always be the same generic Paragon number, but if you see an SMS on here, let me scroll back down here. Oh no, I can't find it. Anyway, if you see SMS on here, that's what it is. And so that's the message history and the requested showings. We talked about that. Back to my content. Below my content is Paragon Professional. And just like statistics, what that's going to do is open up Paragon Pro on your phone, which would not be fun to use. I mean, this has never been a fun thing to do on your phone, which is why we have Paragon Connect. But if there was something you needed to do here, you could come in and do it. And then however you go back, you go back. So the last thing to look at here on the menu is our settings. And so I'll tap here on settings. Now, a couple things you remember about the settings is because Paragon Connect and Paragon Classic share a database, a lot of the settings are the same. So if you change settings, that's fine. Just know you're changing them in both, if they exist in both. The only ones that are unique to Paragon Connect app are the mobile app that are down here at the bottom. We'll talk about that. So right off the bat, one of the easy things with Paragon Connect on your phone is you can easily change your agent image. So if you've got an awesome selfie or a great family photo you took on your vacation, you can tap on that image icon and you can go upload a new image right from your phone. You may or may not believe this. We had someone, this was probably 2 summers ago, they sat up front at the membership desk up there with someone from tech support with them for almost 30 minutes scrolling through their phone gallery trying to find the picture they wanted to use as their agent image. And then they were going to email it to themselves to get into Paragon. The emailing to themselves is the part they couldn't figure out. All right, so back here to the settings, agent image, we just talked about that. If you go to my profile, agent image is right there at the top. Office logo would let you upload a logo for your office. Phone settings, it just shows you what your current agent phone number is. If that's not your correct phone number, on the gateway where you log in, if you go here to update profile, you can update your phone number. It'll take about 45 minutes to push to Paragon, Connect, and Classic. The texting phone number, like it says here, allows users to text you from application, standard message, and data rate supply. This number is used in 2 places. First, if you're not on your phone, but you're on your computer using Paragon, Connect, or Classic and texting, your texting phone number is included in the text. So even though it's not coming from your number, it's included in the text they're getting. The other time this is used is when agents pull up your listings and they have an option in Paragon Connect on their phone to text from that listing. This is the number they're texting to. So you want to make sure that's your mobile number. Don't have it any other number in there, because if an agent wants to text you and they're on the listing, that's the number they're going to text to. And then it's got office phone number. The next one is change password. Now, change password is letting you change your password for Paragon Connect, whether it's the app or you're logging directly into Paragon Connect on your computer. This is where you can change your password. So anybody who's ever had issues and that change password or create password link didn't work on the home page when you're setting it up, you could go to your computer and you could go here to the settings in Paragon Connect and change your password. It does tell you all the requirements. Can't use the last 3 passwords, but that's change your password. Email settings. Auto-populate your email. If that's turned on, then when you send emails, you're going to get a copy of them. And then email verification status, just make sure that your email is verified. Then we've got social media, and this lets you go in and add your social media accounts. Paragon has had this for like 10 years. It's in the Collab Center settings in Paragon Classic. So if you're looking here and you're like, when did I put those in there? That's where it came from. And if you don't have them, of course, you can copy and paste them in here. That social media information goes at the bottom of the emails you send from Paragon Connect, and it's on the Collab Center. And then the Your Story is a place for a Your Story video, and then you can have a little place for text. That information is viewed on the Collab Center. And like I said, it's been in Paragon for a long time. In Paragon Classic here, if I go to Preferences and I go to Collab Center, here's the About Me message. There under Agent Information is the social media links and the My Story video. So again, that's nothing new. It's been there for a long time, but it's just a different way to get to it in Paragon Connect. So that's the My Profile part of the settings. The next one is System. The result options, you can change it from miles to kilometers. Paragon has some accounts in Canada. They use kilometers there. Time zone lets you change your time zone. Intermountain MLS has members in the Pacific time zone. This lets them change that if you want to. Automated valuations. So AVM stands for Automated Valuation Model. And there are 2 that are in Paragon Connect and Paragon Classic. The Easy Value is from Paragon, and the Realtor's Valuation Model, or RVM, is from RPR, Realtor's Property Resource. And both of these have data from the MLS and used sold information to calculate their values, which is a lot different than consumer AVMs like the ones on websites from Redfin or Zillow that don't have sold data, at least in Idaho, because we're a non-disclosure state. And so you can turn these on or off. If you don't want to use them, they're turned off everywhere or they're turned on everywhere. A few places you'll see them are on Easy CMA, and I also think on the Collab Center there are places where it shows them, but it's either you can either have them on or have them off. Back here to the system settings, Grant My Identity shows anyone who assumes your identity. So you can click there and see what TC or what assistant or other agent assumes your identity. If it's someone that you don't want to assume your identity anymore, contact membership and they can turn that off. The only way to have assume identity turned on is on our members page. If you go here to the resources section, there's a link here for assume identity form. So if you want to turn on assume identity, you come fill this form out, and then in Paragon Connect you can see who can access your identity. Then we get to choose theme. Now, if you're in Paragon Connect and you don't use it a ton, you might be thinking, Chris, why is yours blue and mine is purple? That's because you can choose the theme. And so when you go to choose theme, you can choose your color. So mine is set to Ice Glacier. The system default is this plum-tastical one, but you can change that. And you can always hit preview to see it. If you're at a national franchise, you go to national brand, and they've got all these other companies there. So like if I was at Keller Williams, there's what the Keller Williams theme looked like. And so you can choose a theme that matches your company's branding. And custom theme lets you go in and put your own colors in there. And that's for Paragon Connect, whether it's the app or the website for you. Up at the top here on the color is public facing. That lets you change the Collab Center for your clients. So if you want the Collab Center to match your company branding or a certain color scheme, you can do that. So that is the color. The other item on the choose theme is the banner graphic. So if I go back here to Paragon Connect on my computer, the banner graphic it's talking about is right up here at the top. So the banner graphic that I have is the one that has the lake in the background of some properties right here. But you can choose from any of these banners. You can't upload your own, but you can choose from any of them. And up at the top, they have different categories. They have all, holiday, fantasy, whatever. And you can also choose the banner graphic for the Collab Center. That's public facing. So maybe I wanted to have like the springtime banner or 4th of July, whatever I want. You can go there and have those banner graphics. So that is the choose theme. The last one here under the system settings is reverse prospecting. And all this lets you do is turn off reverse prospecting if you don't want it on, and it's either on or off for everyone. The thing to remember if you're reading the reverse prospecting description here is that in Idaho, we call the agent representing the buyer the selling agent. In a lot of parts of the company, a lot of parts of the country, the agent representing the seller is the selling agent. So when you read this and you see the word selling agent, that's listing agent. So what this is saying is that reverse prospecting allows listing agents to identify potential buyers interested in their listings. By enabling reverse prospecting, an alias will be automatically assigned to each of your contacts. We already saw what that alias is, how it works. And then the listing agent would only see your name and the alias, ensuring your contact's information is confidential. So if you don't want to turn that on, that's fine. The thing I would say about turning it off, because it's turned on by default, is turning it off is like telling someone, don't go online and find listings, only look at listings I give you. So what reverse prospecting does is it takes agents who have listings that already match their search. They're not unrelated to you. They already match your client's search and allows them to reach out to you, the agent who has the buyer. So if your goal working with a buyer is to help them get a property as fast as possible, this could help you. And so that's what reverse prospecting is. So that is the system settings. So I'm going back here. The next one's Collaboration Center. Display settings. What do you want to have it display about you on the Collab Center? Again, these are already in Paragon Classic and the Collab Center preferences. And then additional resources are links that you can add for the Collab Center. So like if I want to add a link in there, I can put the name of the link and then the website. And then consumer search lets you choose what your Collab Center clients, your buyers, can search for on the Collab Center. I've got residential and active, but you could put other property classes and other statuses in there if you want. The thing to remember is whatever you have turned on are turned on by default. I had an agent in a class once that said, I have an investor. Having solds would be great. And that might be true, but if you only have one investor and you've got 50 contacts and some of them are less tech savvy and new home buyers, first-time home buyers, you're going to have to instruct them on how to go in and turn off the solds so they only see the active listings, because that's turned on by default. And so I'm not saying don't turn it on, just know what happens if you turn it on. So that's the consumer search section on the Collab Center settings. So I'm going back here. Easy CMA, we talk about the Easy CMA settings in Easy CMA, but they're here as well. That's in the advanced class. Notifications. What do you want to be notified of? What do you want your clients to be notified of? And again, these are in Paragon Classic. So like for example, if I go here to notification options under the Collab Center, it's all the same ones here. So if you've already turned these on the way that you want, that's the same thing that's in Paragon Connect. So your notifications is what's going to notify you. So I have the top 6 turned off because those have nothing to do with your clients. Those have everything to do with just a search and a match. So for example, if I've got a client I've set up for searches and they have a new match today, do I want to find out about their new match, or do I want to find out when they mark it as a favorite, possible, rejected, and leave a comment? Now, if you have one contact, you might think, I want to find out about their new matches. Okay, so now you've got 100 contacts. Do you want 100 emails telling you they have a new match? Or would you rather wait until they actually mark it as a favorite, not that it's just a new match? So it's up to you. You can do it however you want. But what I'll tell you is we don't get phone calls and emails from agents that say, Chris, how can I get more emails from Paragon? I don't get enough emails from Paragon. We get phone calls and emails from agents that say, I'm getting too many emails. How do I turn them off? This is one of the ways to do that. So you just want to, before you turn everything on, keep that in mind. And like I said, this isn't a new setting. It's already in Paragon Classic. So if you've already configured it the way that you want, then I wouldn't necessarily change it here. The other is your client notifications. I would turn all those on. I'd want my client knowing everything about every listing out there that matches their criteria. And the comments from agent are comments from you. Other agents have no way to contact your clients. And then the last one here is mobile app. And there's only two things on here. The map settings. If you mark map settings and you turn that on, what that means is when you open up Paragon Connect, instead of taking you to the dashboard, it takes you right into the Near Me search. So that's a lot more similar to a consumer app. Like if I open up the Zillow app or the Realtor.com app, it's bringing up a map showing me listings. You could make that happen in Paragon Connect on the app in your phone if you wanted that to happen. And if you tap on the little I, it explains that to you. The registered devices just shows the devices you've installed this on. Can't really do anything with it, but it shows you that. So those are the settings there. Questions about the settings in Paragon Connect or Paragon Classic? Excuse me, not Paragon Classic, Paragon Connect. That's all we're talking about, sorry.
If we want to put it on an iPad too, does it matter?
Yeah, if the app will work, the mobile side also works, yeah. Yeah, you can do it on an iPad, for sure, yep. Yeah, anything that'll load the app will work. All right, so we've talked about the settings, we've talked about the dashboard, so let's talk about searching. So I'm gonna go back up here to the menu and go to properties, and we'll hop into residential. That's the most common search. Now, before we jump in and look at the criteria and how to enter criteria, we'll just talk about the logistics of this page, how it's set up. First, you've got the count up at the top telling you how many matches there are, and then you've got the search that you're on, the name of the search. And then to the right of that, you've got save to save your search, the magnifying glass to find fields, and then the more menu. So let's talk about the magnifying glass here for a second. All right, so let's talk about back here at the top.
Where did you go to get this to begin with?
You just go to the menu and go to properties,
Okay,
and then I went to residential.
okay.
So the magnifying glass at the top lets you search for a field. Now, in Paragon Connect on your phone, it can be really useful because it's one long search screen, which is the same criteria that is in regular Paragon Classic. So if you're on your phone and your phone is 5 years old or newer, which I think would qualify for most people, if you swipe up from the bottom of your phone, it takes you back to your dashboard, your home screen. I've had people in class do that and get mad at Paragon Connect. It's not Paragon Connect, it's how your phone works. So talk to Steve Jobs or Tim Cook at Apple or whoever at Google about how they made phones work. So the reason the magnifying glass is useful is it helps you find a field on this screen. So let's say I want to search by subdivision, so I tap on the magnifying glass and I type in the word sub, there's subdivision. So instead of swiping down and accidentally going to the home screen, I can find a field I'm looking for. So that's the magnifying glass. And all of these same things exist in Paragon Connect on your computer, but of course your computer is a wide screen, so instead of having only two icons, it's got more icons up here on the right. But all of those icons are still here. I just have to tap on that menu on the right to bring them up. So tapping on the menu on the right, criteria summary is there. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But what it shows you is the criteria that you're using. So instead of showing you everything, it shows you only the things you've entered criteria for. Then my saved searches, last 5 searches, we've seen those already. And then customize fields will let you come here and add or remove fields from your search. Just like in Paragon Classic, you can come here to search, and when you're on your search, go here to customize fields and add criteria to your search. So it's the same thing in Paragon Connect. So again, to get that to come up, I just tap on the menu there, go to customize fields, and here we've got all the criteria that's there. So if I want to move things, I can. And if I want to add something, I would tap on the plus and go to add new fields. And then here are all the fields that currently aren't being used that I could add in there. Just like in Paragon Classic, I can come here, go to Customize Fields, and under the available side are all the things that aren't being used. I could add in there. And so you can add them in there, and then once I select something and hit add, then it adds it to my search. So I could add that in there. When you add it to your search in Paragon Connect, that saves that as your new default. So you're no longer on the MLS default, you're on your own new default. And then enter criteria, just like in Paragon Classic, I can come here and I can start typing in. Like if I start typing in under status, I can start typing in, and I can select what I want, or I can type in what I want. And just like in Paragon Connect, there's no AI or anything in here. So if I type in active and I just tap active, that's totally fine. But you want to remember, when listings are entered in the MLS, they're entered as new or back on market. They don't become active until day 4. So if you only have active selected, you're saying, I want listings that are 4 days old or older. And so you just want to make sure you're putting in the criteria you want to put in there. So if you want all the actives, I would select all the actives. I'm also going to select sold and pending. So when we do our search, we'll see some different listings. Now, when you're entering the criteria, obviously the magnifying glass, like we just saw, brings up the choices. So I tapped on the one to the right of type, and I chose single family. The little sliders are what you would see in Paragon Classic for like the equals or contains. And so that's what those are. And so I could come here, enter my criteria. Now, when you're entering things and typing them, you want to remember how your phone works, not how, because Paragon Connect is on your phone. So for example, if I start typing in Meridian, and I have Meridian as an autocomplete right here, I'm going to tap on it, and what you're going to see happen is it's going to say no options. And you're thinking, Chris, I just saw Meridian right there. So you got to think about how autocomplete works on your phone. In English, when we write, we put spaces after words. So when you use autocomplete, it puts a space after your word. When items are added to a database, people don't put spaces after them. So in the MLS, Meridian does not have a space after it. So if I backspace, now Meridian comes up. So you just want to keep that in mind. Again, I had someone complain about Paragon Connect before with that. That has nothing to do with Paragon Connect. That's how autocomplete works on your phone's keyboard. So just remember, if you're typing things and you choose autocomplete, it's going to put a space there. And when you're entering prices, it's all 3 digits. It's not just the first ones. So let's say my price range is going to be from 500,000 to 750,000. Actually, I don't want it to be that high. We want it to be 600,000. And then whatever else I want to put in here. Now, I've got actives, pendings, and solds. My current count is at 5,156. I don't want that many listings to come up. One of the reasons why my count is that high is I don't have any dates in there. I've got 20 years of sold data in my search right now. So if I want only solds in the last 6 months, I can come here to closing date, and I can use the calendar to select a date, or I can tap on the little sliders, the little filter there, and I can choose from the advanced search choices, and I can just pick 6 months back. So now my count drops to 679. And then I can come down here and add other things. Maybe I don't want new construction, so I'm going to go here to age, and I'm going to tap on the magnifying glass, and I'm actually going to select the new construction fields. And because I don't want them, I'm going to tap on the little sliders right here, the advanced options, and choose not equal to. So now I'm getting everything that's in Meridian that is not new construction. Because instead of having to select all the other ones, I selected the 3 I didn't want and chose not equal to. And then I could enter other things in here if I wanted. With the features, there's the features must have, must not have, must have one or more, like we have in Paragon Classic. And I can come here and I can start typing in something. Like if I want to have a pool, I can start typing that in. Or I can tap on the magnifying glass and bring up all the features. When you bring up all the features, under each item, you've got have, not, and 1+. So that's must have, must not have, must have one or more. So within the same category, that's how that must have one or more works. Because if I have someone who wants air conditioning, I mark have on all of these, except for the evaporative. That means every listing has to have all 3 of those. Not going to be very many listings that have central air, a ductless mini split, or a window wall unit. It has to have all of them. But if I do must have 1 or more, the 1 plus, now it can have any combination of those 3. So if it only has a ductless mini split, that'll match. And like if I go down here to pool, here I can choose if they want to have a private pool. So now I've got private and pool as must have, and so now only those that have marked that would have that. And then I hit apply, and now my count drops down to 4. Not a lot of properties in Meridian they're going to have all those. So if I want to come back here and remove those, I can do that. And so now my count goes back up to 344, which I'm trying to get it less than 150, so I'll have to change some things here in a minute. Most of these other things are pretty self-explanatory, just like entering them in Paragon Classic. Questions about entering the criteria. Now, I'm going to go up here and change my price, so we're going to do 500 to 550. And it still gets me to 169. So let's do 500 to 540. Now I'm less than 150. There's a report that we want to look at that has to have less than 150, which is why. So, questions with the criteria. Now, I know I've said this a bunch and done this a bunch already, but just to show you, if again your phone is not your friend to do this, you can come right here and do all of this on your computer. So now I'm doing it on my computer instead of my phone, and so using a keyboard and a mouse might be easier than trying to enter it all on my phone. But it's the same thing. So then when I'm on my phone and I have to use it, it's not something that's foreign to me. Now, before I hit search to bring up the listings, let's go back up here and talk about the menu up on the right. And one of the things we mentioned earlier that we didn't see yet is the criteria summary. So in Paragon Classic, the criteria summary shows the criteria that you're using. That's what it does here too. So when I tap criteria summary, you'll notice all I have here are the things that I'm using. I don't have a place for agent or subdivision or age. Not age, I have age in here, sorry. Year built or number of acres, because I'm not using those. If I tap back on the criteria summary icon here at the top, now it shows me all the criteria again. So it makes it really easy to make sure you've got everything you entered before you did your search. Especially if you're on your phone and your client's right there, instead of getting properties you don't want, you come up here, click on the criteria summary, and you can verify that you did not fat finger and enter something wrong. You've got everything you want here. So that's the criteria summary. And then if I wanted to save the search, I would just tap on the little floppy disk icon, and I could give it a name. So let's say I'm going to call this Meridian. I don't know why I'm all caps. I don't want that. Meridian, July 13, 2026. And if I wanted to assign this to a contact, I could hit assign contact, select from my contacts here. Maybe I want to assign this to Willie Evans. And so now it's got Willie Evans there, and it's going to turn on the Collab Center. And down here I could change the type and time frame. And if I hit save, it saves the search and then sends him that notification for the Collab Center and shows him the listings. If I want to remove him, I just tap on the X next to his initials or picture, and then I don't have it assigned to a contact anymore. If I just want to save it, I tap save, and now I've saved that search, and now instead of saying my default, it says Meridian, July 13th, 2026. So now I've got my search saved. Questions about the criteria saving searches before I hit search here? All right, let's hit search. So when you hit search in Paragon Connect, the default result is always the thumbnail view, which is a picture with some information below it. And from here, you could tap on the media gallery to view the pictures, brings those up. The listings have a checkbox to be able to select the ones you want. Up on the top right, we've got the views menu, the filter, and then on the right we have some other options here. So let's click on the views menu, and there's other views here you can look at. These same views exist in Paragon Connect on your computer. So the first one under views, under the thumbnail, is the map. So the map is the map view showing you where the properties are, but it's also where you can add the map to your search. So maybe my people want to live in Meridian, but they want to live south of 2026 and north of I-84. So they want to live in this area right here. So to add a map to my search, when I'm on the map view, over on the right, you've got this drawing tool icon, and then you can choose how you're going to draw. So I'm just going to do freehand, and then I'm going to draw my little shape, and then it's using that for my search. And you'll notice properties that are not in that shape, like these ones down here south of 84, are not part of my search anymore. If I want to edit the shape, down on the bottom left is the little shape icon. I tap on that, and I can edit, exclude, delete the shape. Maybe I want to delete it and start again. So now I can come back here, and maybe this time I'm going to draw a rectangle. To draw a rectangle, I start in one corner and then go to the opposite corner. And then let's go to my shape. Maybe I need to edit that. I need to move this up a little bit. So now I've got this new shape I've drawn that's a rectangle instead of my freehand drawing. And so now I'm seeing the listings that are only in that shape. And again, the little shape icons down here on the bottom left. If I tap there, I can include, exclude, edit, delete. I'm going to delete it. And then as I zoom in on the map, listings start appearing. If you're seeing the little red circles, it's just because there's more than one listing there, that they're near each other. So that's the map. And if you're thinking, Chris, I don't see any listings over on the right, the east side, that's because those don't have Meridian addresses. And like if you're thinking, well, Chris, this one isn't in Meridian, it was probably mapped wrong by the agent, because sometimes agents don't do it right. And so that could be the case. So that's the map. And of course, if I tap on a listing, I would view that property. Go back here to the views menu. So the third view is the result analytics. This is unique to Paragon Connect. And so this is a report that at the top gives you the criteria summary of all the criteria that you entered. So again, you can verify that you entered everything you thought you did. And then we've got the total number of listings. That's the result analytics. Yep. And then you've got the listings broken down by status. Then you've got days on market, high, low, average, median, price per square foot, high, low, average, median. And again, this is based on your search. So this isn't like the market in Meridian. This is based on the search that you did. And then I've got, because I have solds, I've got sale to list ratio. There's the list price analytics, high, low, average, median, sold price, high, low, average, median, and then listings by status. And so I've got that right there. And if I go to the menu up on the right, I could even create a PDF of this that would be an 8.5 by 11 PDF that I could share. So that's the result analytics. And if I go back to the menu, the views menu, the fourth one is the CMA summary, and this is one that you had to have less than 150 listings to view. If you have more than 150, it will tell you you can't view it. It'll just be grayed out. But what the CMA summary does is it breaks them down by status. Now, of course, it's on my phone, so I can swipe over and see everything here. But at the bottom of each section, you've got the minimum, average, maximum, and median for the different data points that are there. Same thing with the sold listings. Got all that information and pendings. So that, and you can also PDF that one. So that's the CMA summary. Then the last section is spreadsheets, and by default, you only have one spreadsheet. And a spreadsheet on your phone is not going to be very fun. And if you're on the app like I am, turning your phone sideways doesn't make it landscape. But you can swipe over and see all the different columns. So it makes it easy to sort information. And if you want to copy a spreadsheet, you can tap on the menu and there's a plus over to the right of each spreadsheet, and you can copy that. Give it a name. And now I've saved that, a copy of it, and then I could customize it by going here to the menu and going to the customize and add different columns to that spreadsheet if I want it. You can have up to 5 different spreadsheets. So if you get to 5 and you need to get rid of one, you would just tap on the little trash icon and delete that spreadsheet. These are not related to spreadsheets that are in Paragon Classic. These are customized yourself. So I'm going to go back here to the Views menu and go to Thumbnail. And so I've got my results up here. And so now I'm going to tap on the picture, and that's going to bring up the detail view. And so when you're looking at the detail view, you can scroll through the photos. Up at the top, you've got Previous and Next. You've got the magnifying glass, which, like we saw on our search screen, is to help you find a field. So let's say I'm trying to find out if this is owner-occupied. Type in OCC, occupied, vacant. So I can easily find something. Now, over time, you'll get used to where things are at in Paragon Connect. I mean, the MLS full detail, when we made that report 15 years ago, people weren't familiar with it. Now they are. That is not going to exist in Paragon Connect because it doesn't work on a mobile device. So you just have to get familiar with what's here. The little thumbs up lets you add it to agent recommended. So that's like a listing cart for your Collab Center clients. The shopping cart is listing cart, so that would let you add that to a listing cart or create a new listing cart. And then the menu on the right, match my contacts, shows you if you have any contacts that match that listing, which I don't. Third-party integrations, these are like all the little icons that are on the full detail in Paragon Classic. All those same icons are here. And we'll talk about the CRS Data Property Report in a minute, but they're all here. I can just tap on any of those. And if it's a listing that they're using Broker Bay, which I don't know if I've got one in my search, we'll see. That one's pending. So yeah, if they're using Broker Bay, when I go here to that third-party integrations, Broker Bay is right up here at the top. Book appointment. I could go right there, schedule an appointment. Print, I could print this, which would create a PDF on your phone. Driving directions would open up your mapping app to give you driving directions, and report listing issue is the correction button. And then when you're looking at the property, if you want to view all the photos, you can just tap on photos or tap on the media gallery icon. It brings up all the photos. And if you're looking at a listing with photos and thinking, you know, I've seen listings that don't have the labels and descriptions, those agents chose not to use them. The default is that they're there. So if people that are visually impaired or have screen readers that are using it, they'd be able to know what those pictures are. If someone's visually impaired and you don't have labels, they don't know what your pictures are. You'll notice, though, up at the top, I've also got map and docs. If I go to the map, here's a map showing where the property is. I can zoom in or out if I want to. And on the map in Paragon Connect, up on the top right, is the aerial flyover. So I tap on aerial flyover, and that brings up the aerial map, and it's going to show me where this property is. So I can see this one backs right up to McMillan. And then the docs are any documents they uploaded. So there's the property disclosure. I can tap on it, and there's the property disclosure. And then I can close that. And if I want to go back to the listing, I just tap the X, and I'm back on the listing. And then I scroll down. There's some icons here. The Broker Bay appointment is there. And then here's the CRS Data Property Report. That's the tax data. So I just tap here on the tax data, and that opens up CRS data. Now here's this property on Lasher and Meridian, and I can zoom in and look at the information, owner data, tax assessment, tax history, and all that information is there. And then the property details, if I go to show more, there's all the property data. It's one long column. And as I scroll down, there's the listing agent information, there's the features, and then we get to the public remarks, and then the agent remarks, financial data. If it was a pending or sold, that data would be here as well. There's the agent information. They have an open house scheduled on the 15th from 3 to 6. There's the documents. There's the property history information. So there's the current listing in 2026, but here I can see when it was listed in 2018 before. Public record is the public record data that Paragon has. And when you're looking at public record and you get down to the sales, just remember you're going to see a bunch of zeros because we're non-disclosure. There's the valuations. We saw that in the preferences, so I'm viewing those valuations. Then there's a mortgage calculator. Buyer demand will be there if you enter and maintain your own listings, and it just shows you how many contacts that have contacts assigned match this property. How many agents with contacts match this property. So 125 contacts match this. And then community reports uses the zip code to give you community data. So here I am on this listing, and let's say I want to share this listing with my client, with my buyer, if I'm an agent. Here's the share icon right down here. I just tap on that, and I have some options. Share with public and share with members. Share with members lets you email or copy a link for agents. That is an agent view, and when they click on it, they will log into Paragon Connect to view it. If you send that to a consumer, it's not going to work because they're not going to have a login for Paragon Connect. And then email, text, and copy link are there. Email, if it lets me email, so let's say I wanted to do that. I go here to email, put in the person's email address. If I'm emailing someone who is one of my contacts, their name will come up. Of course, if they're not, I can just type in their email address. Here's a listing. Type in a message if I want. Here you go. And then I can send it. So here's my fake person's email. And this is what it looks like when they get that email sent to them. Here's a listing. It's got my company logo right there. Review one listing. There's my agent image. The social media links are all there. And then they click on view listing, and it opens a client-friendly, mobile-friendly view. And so here's that property on Riva Capri. And I've had people say, how do I know it's not an agent view? Well, for one, there's no agent remarks here. For two, there's no agent information here like we saw earlier in Paragon Connect. And it's mobile friendly, so if they're on a mobile device, that's going to work too. This is not the Collab Center. They're not set up for the Collab Center, but it works kind of like the Collab Center. So that's how you would share it as an email. If I wanted to share it as a text, again, tap on the share icon, but this time I go to text, and what it's going to do is it's going to open up my texting app so that I come here, put in the person's name or phone number, select them, and then it automatically copies in the link in the text field. There's the link right there for the listing. And then I send it, and it sends them a text. This is the text they get. And you'll notice it's coming from me, not from some generic Paragon number, because I'm texting it from my phone. And then I tap on the link, and you'll notice it looks just like what we just saw. And again, I come down here to the listing information. There's no agent remarks there. There's no agent information here. And so that's how you would text it from your phone. And then I just go back here to Paragon Connect, and I'm back here in Connect. Now, the biggest thing to remember is when you text, it's just not going to be in your message history in Paragon Connect because you didn't do it in Paragon Connect. You did it from your texting app. So you want to keep that in mind. Questions about sharing one listing. So let's look at sharing multiple listings. And go back here to Paragon Connect. All right, so I'm going to go back to my search results. And I'm just going to select 3 listings here. You'll notice it says at the top, 3 selected. If I tap on that little drop down there, I can only show those 3, or I can just work with the 3 I've got selected. And then here's the share icon. I just tap on share, and then the same thing we just saw. So if I come here to text, it's going to bring up my texting app. Select the person I'm texting. It's going to put the link in there. But now the link is for multiple properties. So they come here, they text on the link they got, and now instead of just seeing one property, they have 3 properties. So whether you're sending 1 or 3 or 100, you can do it on your phone. So you can easily share from Paragon Connect. Questions, comments, concerns with any of the stuff we talked about so far with Paragon Connect on our phones? Now again, a lot of the stuff is the more you do it, the easier it's going to get. You want to keep that in mind. I mean, again, taking a 2-hour class from Chris is not going to make you a pro at Paragon Connect. Just like if Zuckerberg was sitting next to you, you're not an expert at Facebook. You're going to have to use it to do that. So the next thing we want to talk about, two other things we talked about earlier that we haven't looked at yet, are the Near Me search and the hot sheet alerts. So the Near Me search, we're going to do that right from the home page. So I'm going to tap on the menu here and go to Dashboard. And right at the top is the Near Me search. Now before I tap on it, we want to talk about what the Near Me search is going to do, because a lot of times agents want it to be like a consumer tool. So if you want the MLS to be a consumer tool, then you don't want to look at sold and expired and canceled listings from the last 20 years. You only want active listings. That's not how the MLS is. The MLS has all that other data in there. Consumer tools do not. So when you go to the Near Me search, the default is to show you everything. Just like when you go to search in residential, if you don't put any criteria in, you're going to get 600,000 listings. It's going to show you everything. So when you go to the Near Me search the first time, which I'm going to do here in a second, it's going to show me everything around me. And to filter it to show actives is what we'll look at. And if you want to set that as the default, you can do that. The thing to remember if you do that is that you have done it. So like if you're out with your clients and you've got the Near Me search showing you just actives, that pending down the road will not come up unless you change your filter to show you pendings. So I'm going to tap on that Near Me icon, and what he's seeing and what you're all going to see the first time is you're seeing dozens of properties. Obviously in this commercial area where we are, there are not dozens of properties for sale. So it's showing me everything, 20 years of sold data, 19 years of expired and canceled data, all the actives and all the pendings. So to change it so it only shows me actives, that's what this little filter at the top is for, the little sliders. So I'm going to tap on that. Now, you can of course put any filter in here you want, but what we're looking at is how to make our default show us just the actives. So I'm going to go here to status and tap on the magnifying glass, and I'm going to choose all the actives, and I'm going to hit apply. And that's all I'm putting in there. Just went to the status, tapped on the magnifying glass, put in the actives, and hit apply. And if I hit apply again, that would bring the map up and show me the actives. But if I want to make this my default, then I click on the little save, little floppy disk icon. And instead of giving it a name like we saw before, I'm just going to tap Save Default Template, which means for this Near Me search, which is a multi-class search, that means my multi-class searches will now only look for actives unless I change it. So now when I hit save, that's saving that default template. And if I hit apply, I'm back on the map, I'm seeing 0. But if I go back to my dashboard, and now that I've set that default, when I click on the Near Me search again, it's going to open up, and now it's showing me nothing around me. And even if I go in and I close it and I go back into the app, when I go to Near Me, instead of seeing all those properties around me, there's none because my default setting is now just active. Does that make sense? So now, if I will move north, if I move north, and there are properties that are listed, like in this case, there's one off McMillan near Julian. There's a property right there. I can tap on it and I can view it. But now everywhere I move my map to, it's only showing me active listings. So there's another one over here off of Maple Grove and 2026. And so now I'm just going to see the actives. So if there's a pending or a sold I would want to see, I would need to come here, go back to my filter, add those as statuses as well. But if I don't make them my default, then they're only there for that one time. But the default is always actives, which is what a consumer tool would do. Because that's the thing we've had people say is, well, when I'm with my clients, they bring up the Zillow app and they see properties faster than I do. Well, part of that's because if you don't have your Near Me showing you just actives, you've got to weed through all of the MLS data, where a consumer on a consumer app only has actives. And so you can dumb down the map to have it only show you actives, and you're just like a consumer app. So you want to keep that in mind. Questions, comments, concerns about that part? All right, the last thing to talk about then is back here on the dashboard, and that is the hot sheet alerts. Now, the reason we're looking at it on the dashboard is this one of the widgets that's already here. You also could go in and just do a hot sheet search and set up alerts there as well, which is what we're going to end up doing. But what the hot sheet alert lets you do is, if you're someone who uses the Market Monitor in Paragon Classic, or you have used it in the past, you can use hot sheet alerts to do the same thing, but even better. So what hot sheet alerts let you look for are listings that have had status changes or price changes. So just like the Market Monitor, so back here in Paragon Classic, we've got the Market Monitor on the home page here. You know, it's got new, expired, price change, hot list, sold, pending, tours, open house, rented, leased, back on market. On hot sheet alerts, you can look at those same things, but instead of having one only for new, one only for back on market, one only for price change, you could have one alert look for all of those things in one place. So to create a hot sheet alert, I'm going to tap on the little menu over on the right, and I'm just going to select Create New Hot Sheet. So I'm tapping on the menu over on the right of Hot Sheet Alerts and choosing Create New Hot Sheet. So if you're trying to emulate the Market Monitor, then you want your days back to be 1. That's the Market Monitor default. You can make it whatever you want. I'm going to make it 1 just because that's what the Market Monitor is. And then under Filter, you're choosing what things you want to see on this alert. So this is where, let's say I'm looking for properties in Meridian, and I want to see properties that are new, back on market, or have had a price change. Now, people always say, why isn't active here? Because active listings aren't on the hot sheet. They're stagnant. There's nothing happening to an active listing. But if it has a price change or a status change, I might want to see that. And so this is price change, new, back on market. Most of these are self-explanatory. Miscellaneous change is when the system does the change. So for example, when you enter a listing as new, after day 3, on day 4, it changes to active. That's a miscellaneous change. Or when a listing is active and it expires, that's a miscellaneous change. So a miscellaneous change or when the system does it. So maybe I want to choose that as well, which means I will see expireds. I will also see listings that have gone from new to active on my hot sheet alert. Now again, that may be more than I want, because if I don't want expireds, I didn't select expired, but the miscellaneous change is going to get me those. So you just want to remember, you're choosing what you want. I'm going to leave it on there. And then I go down here to where it says criteria, and this is where you enter the specifics. So like under property class, if I only want residential, I'm going to choose residential. And then I've got city, zip code. So let's say I'm going to look in Meridian. Well, no, I did Meridian before. Let's look at Nampa this time. Nampa. Again, I got to make sure there's no space there. So now I've got Nampa in there, and you'll notice the count updates. Maybe also in Nampa, what I want to do is have a price range, and my price range is going to be 400 to 625. And there's a few other parameters like square footage and school district you can put in there. One thing that is not in here, and the Market Monitor didn't have it either, is age. So there's not a way to eliminate new construction. If you want to do that, you got to run a regular search. But what I've got in here is, in the last 1 day, price change, new, back on market, miscellaneous change, residential in Nampa between 400 and 625,000. And if I wanted to put something else in, like maybe I'm going to look between square footage of 1,600 to 2,200 square feet. So now I've got a square footage amount in there, and that drops me from 44 down to 24 listings. And then if I want to make this, now I could hit search and I would see those listings. But if I want to make this an alert, like the Market Monitor, so I see it all the time, then I want to come up here and click on the save icon. And so I'm going to call this Nampa, what did I do, 400 to 600, we'll say K, new, bomb, PC, miss. Now, when you're making it a hot sheet alert, you check that little box right there, and there's a little eye that when you tap on it, it tells you what a hot sheet alert is. So it tells me it's going to be a hot sheet alert that's going to show me instantly new matches from that widget, track changes, eliminate the reason to have a saved search, and you can have up to 10 alerts on that hot sheet alert section. So then when I hit save, and I'm going to hit search here to show me those 24 listings. So here's the 24 listings that match what I put in there. Now when I go back to the dashboard, and I go here to hot sheet alerts, you'll notice there's the Nampa 400 to 600K new bomb PC MLC. Miscellaneous, I guess that's what that is. And it says 0 because since I last viewed it, there have been 0 updates. If I tap all, now I'm seeing those 24 again. And so that's the hot sheet alert, is that an hour from now, more than likely, there will be a property that matches this. Because again, there's probably in an hour going to be a new property entered in Nampa between 400 and 600,000. That's pretty obvious. So whenever that happens, there will be a number here indicating that. All always shows you the current, all that match it. But the updates are the cool thing. With the market monitor, you never got that. With the market monitor, it said how many are new right now. And then an hour from now, how many are new right now. Not how many are new since the last time you viewed it, but how many new there are. The updates is how many there are since the last time you viewed it. And so if you're a person who was going to that market monitor and you were just knowing which ones were the existing ones, you don't have to worry about that anymore. And so as you're viewing that market monitor, the hot sheet alerts, that's what that's going to be. And if you tap on the name of the hot sheet alert, it's going to bring up the criteria. If you tap on all, so here's this one I did back last week. It says Nampa back on market, price change new. If I tap on all, I'm going to see the 20 listings in the last day that have done that. Had I clicked on updates, so like this Meridian back on market, price change new, it's set up the same, the last day back. But you might be thinking, Chris, it says 99. Well, it's because the last time I ran it on the 8th of July, there had been over 99 listings. So if I tap on the 99 plus, I'm seeing the 158 listings that have been updated since the last time I viewed it. That's not how many are in the last day. That's the last time I viewed it. Does that make sense, the difference?
Even though you have one.
I only did 1 day back, but it's keeping track on his updates. So like I set that up last week, but I didn't look at it until this week. So every time there was an update, it's going on that update list. And then when I click on it, I'm seeing them all. Whereas if I'm clicking on the all, I'm only seeing the ones, we'll go back to that Meridian one. If I click on all, let me refresh it here. I'm only seeing 28 because today's Monday. In the last 1 day, yesterday was Sunday, there have only been 28. But since the 7th, there were 158, or whatever that number was. And so that's how those hot sheet alerts work. And if you don't think that's better than the market monitor, you don't know how bad the market monitor was. Because you were just able to put in more specific location information and criteria information than this little thing ever let you do. I mean, again, here, all I've got is class, type, county, city, subdivision, and by the end of the month, we'll have zip code. But I can't go in here and pick to put new, price change, and back on market all together. Whereas in Paragon Connect, you can do that. So one of the changes with areas going away was the market monitor used to have area in there you could use, and a lot of people use that as a way to keep track of what's going on, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. And with areas going away, that was a challenge. Multiple people, instead of trying to limp along on the market monitor, were shown how to use the hot sheet alerts and thought, why didn't this come up as an option instead of trying to show us how to use school district in our spreadsheets for the market monitor? This is so much better than that. Yes, that's why Paragon Connect is better than Paragon Classic. So the hot sheet alert is something that they learned from when they recreated Paragon Connect or whatever. They built it from the ground up as a way to give you more detail than just a status. So that's the hot sheet alerts. And what I would say of the hot sheet alerts, like everything in Paragon Connect, especially on your phone, the more you use it, the easier it's going to get. So if you were someone who uses the market monitor and there's things you looked for, go into the hot sheet alerts and create an equivalent in hot sheet alerts and look at that. And you'll realize how much additional information you're able to use by using that other criteria. So, other comments, questions, concerns about Paragon Connect on our phones, the mobile tools. If you have questions as you're using it, obviously on the gateway where you log in, go here to contact us. Anybody in support can help you. And like I mentioned, again, already more than once, if it's your phone and you're having issues with it, don't get frustrated. Go to Paragon Connect on your computer and do it on your computer. Use your keyboard and the mouse. Use a large screen. I mean, here's those hot sheet alerts again. And there's that Nampa one that I just made. And so you can come here and you can do the same thing. I mean, if I go here to create a hot sheet alert, now I'm viewing it on my computer instead of on my phone, and it works the same way. So you can do either way, whatever works easier for you. And that's the benefit of Connect, is that you can use it in both places. You're not stuck only on your phone, because not everyone is a person that uses just their phone. I mean, it just depends on the person. And so this allows you to have that different functionality. That's all I've got for you guys this morning. If you want to fill out the evaluation, you can leave that at your tables. And like I mentioned before, later on this afternoon after the second class is when we'll submit the information to the commission and we'll send out an email with your certificates. So, all right, guys, thanks for coming. Have a great day.